Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
Rotating lockdowns continue to impact the community. The mental health impact is concerning, and the toll on work and relationships could become immeasurable. So, what are the solutions in such acute times as these? From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. When will it ever end? The onslaught of COVID is relentless. As soon as one lockdown ends, another one starts, then another. Borders open and close, business is on again and off again, and the whole ongoing uncertainty is exhausting. But some people cope better than others. And if your resilience reaches a low point, what should you do? Leading corporate psychologist Rhonda Andrews of Barrington Centre has long experience in helping business people manage stress. Stay connected is her advice, but what is she seeing in this unpredictable workplace right now? Rhonda's talking to Heather Dawson.
We certainly are seeing really different sectors swing from optimism, relief, right across to the other side of despondency and helplessness. There's a real swing, and that swing isn't just from one side to the other, it oscillates.
Well, what's the difference between just being tired and really reaching the end of your tether, which I guess could be a whole lot more dangerous?
And it very much is, and there's a big difference between the two. When I hear people say they're tired, they then have that as quite a short-term thing happening for them, and they can see it being fixed. So they've got solutions to that. And so there's a sense of control of it. But reaching the end of your tether has very different hallmarks, and it shows signs of a sense of helplessness, a sense of I've really tried everything and nothing works, and people at that stage can't see any light at the end of an ever-growing longer tunnel. And so there's that sense of nothing I do is going to help me.
What are the issues, do you think, that are causing so much fatigue around the business environment now?
I think the big ticket item is uncertainty. And from that then flows the second ticket item, and that's demand. So what's happening is business is saying we're needing to keep on changing we hear the language of pivot, we hear the language of evolve. I think business owners are sick and tired of hearing those terms because really they're just reacting to changing environment. And with that absolutely spikes demand and what businesses and business owners need to do as employers to keep up with that ever-changing environment that they're trying to not only have their business survive, but still continue thriving and being able to continue employing and hopefully growing in the circumstances.
But many of those problems won't go away, will they? So how do you manage them without letting emotional exhaustion take hold?
And for me, it's not so much as what's going on around us that creates the danger, but it's actually how we interact with these challenges. So you're quite right. Those things are going to keep happening around us, but it's how we think about them, what our actions are, and how our reactions and feelings are, because it's that interconnect that either kills us or has us thriving. And for me, there's a real circuit breaker in all of this. It is about connection. So no matter how bad things look, everyone needs the ability to be able to speak with someone so they can share what's going on for them internally. Because, we hear about all the other things externally, but it's about being able to say what's happening inside and feel like someone's listening to that. I don't need to have the solutions for you, but to actually share that, for me, is a critical circuit breaker for people to be able to continue dealing with the ever-changing business environment we're in.
Rhonda, why are some business owners more resilient than others when it comes to things like fatigue?
It's a very good question. And when we look at array of human beings and the array of different business owners, why is it that we actually see some fall over and really struggle and others absolutely thrive? And I think certainly it is about their own business experience. That does help that, their own personal experience. But if I take a dive into the business per se, I think it's three things. It's the culture that they've created in their business. It's the support that they've put in place for themselves and their staff. And I think it's the business practices that are there as a structure and like role clarity, so that when things are coming on from the outside that really buffer and hit the business, and that could be change in the pipeline, change in demand, change in customers, that builds the resilience and the sustainability for them to be able to bounce back rather than feeling like they've gone under. And for me, they're the three common elements when I go into different businesses and over the last 30 years see those that really do thrive, genuinely thrive, and those that just feel like they're batting their head against a brick wall. They're the three differentials.
Mazars is an international audit, tax and advisory firm committed to helping clients confidently build and grow their businesses. Experience a new perspective with Mazars. Visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
But what are the telltale signs that dangerous levels of fatigue are being reached amongst your staff?
Yes, that's a very good question, and it is important to see what I call the fatigue warning signs. And I'll share an example which really highlights, okay, how do you look at these? Smart businesses are currently making this very public in their offices or online. And so they either have big boards or they have it on screen time or have it on their intranet. And what they have is that people can post just the different feelings that they're having or different physical things that are happening to them, and then they rate their fatigue or rate their level of energy or rate their level of happiness. And so they're being able to put out there anonymously things like physical change to their sleep, activity level changes, what's happened to their changes in their behaviour like moodiness, their level of patience. And so these things become warning signs. Are they getting snappy? Are they procrastinating? Are they actually backing off and not engaging with others and less social? And then they can see some feelings. So are they not sharing? Are they bottling? Or the opposite, are they actually having big outbursts? And so what they've got is they're actually seeing posts of this, and people are actually able to rate, does this feel good? Does this feel bad? Does this feel just yuck? And then it actually gives license, public license, for the business to talk about it. And that doesn't matter if there's only 2 people, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. But I think it's a brilliant idea to actually then be able to do some educational piece around fatigue, to give license to be able to talk about it, and more importantly, permission to actually change it. And I think for me, those things are what are really important, because if I feel a failure that I can't work 24/7, 7 days a week because my boss is doing that or the business owner's doing it, then what am I going to do? It's really clear. I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to shut up, and I'm not going to say a thing. But then the first time anyone hears about it is I'm carted off to the GP or carted off to hospital because I'm exhausted and I've got other symptoms of heart problems, palpitations, all those other physical ailments which are signs of a bigger problem.
Okay, well, we don't want that. So, Rhonda, eventually, is it possible to achieve a fatigue-free workplace?
For me, it's about stopping long-term fatigue. There will always be fatigue during peak periods in every business, whether that's around a disaster, whether that's around end of month, end of financial year, or production peaks. But it's how the business actually gives what I call break cycles during these peak times, rather than waiting until the person collapses. At that stage, as we know, the risk is that the staff member feels like there's no way out and they're going to resign. I heard an example last week, and it was fascinating when the person said that all the staff, and we're talking in this case 200 staff, will just have to, quote, suck it up for 8 months until we see the deadline late in 2021. And I was flabbergasted. And no surprise, I then asked, so how many staff have actually resigned? Answer, 35% in the past 3 months. And so for me, it's about saying you can't have that complacency. I think there's great learning from the fly-in, fly-out model that, yes, they work hard, but they introduce breaks. And so whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a fly-in, fly-out, whether you're a financial controller, you do know there's predictable patterns of peak times. So where do you introduce your break cycles so you have what I call physical, mental and emotional downtime? And that only may be, in some cycles, that only may be half an hour or an hour. In other cases, it may be days. The critical thing isn't the duration. The critical thing is to build it in rather than waiting for the person to tell you because they've collapsed and because they can't actually keep going with their job that you then have to look at a rescue mission.
That was Rhonda Andrews, Managing Director of Barrington Centre. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Executive producer is Heather Dawson. Producers are Nick Schilberger, Chris Ashmore and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts and Belinda Trimboli. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.